Waiting for it to start. Hello and welcome to the Child Care Business Coach podcast. My name is Evelyn Knight. Times are not always easy, are they? No, like right now, I am noticing that my lighting is off. So if you're watching me live on YouTube, yes, I don't usually look like this, but my lighting's usually better. It's been chaos getting everything going this morning, but thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. And yes, sometimes times get tough. So how do we get through it, right? Today, we're talking about staying the course, not giving up through these tough times. And by the way, out of popular demand and request, we are going to be doing a reboot, another 5-day free workshop for you guys on how to survive these tough economic times. So back in January, we did a 5-day free webinar for the early childhood industry for childcare providers and owners on how can you survive? How do you bring multiple income streams in? How do you reduce your overhead? Just tips and tricks on really making it through this economy and any economy. And not only just making it through this economy, but beyond, right? Like when we get past this, because I don't think we're going to be in this too long. There's going to be some course corrections happening, but it won't be too long. So we got to make it through this year, right? And so I have a free webinar. It's going, got to look at my clock. It's March 3rd through the 7th. And we're actually going to be doing some bonus days for you guys this time around. We didn't do this last time, so we're adding to it a little bit. So we'll also be live 10th through the 11th. So just have lunch with me. That's it. 1 hour of your day can change your business. And even if you're already killing it out there, but you just want to add more wealth, like whether you're really struggling and you need to figure it out and you need to dig yourself out of a hole, or whether you really just want more income. You're already doing great, but you want to start building generational wealth. This is for you. I'm basically showing you how to really get your financials in order in a quick way, how to elevate your center, and I'm going to be teaching you how to bring in more income streams, right? Because we can no longer rely on tuition alone. It just doesn't work anymore in our world today. And it really shouldn't, right? I was talking to my mom yesterday about how every business should have at least 5 streams of income. And in childcare, we have 1. We have tuition. That's it. And some of you might have a before and after school program and different things, but do you have 5 streams of income, right? Other than your tuition. And I don't like to, I've had talked to people who said, well, yeah, I do because I do infant toddlers and I do preschool. And no, to me, that's not. No, tuition is tuition, right? Are you bringing in more money that isn't tuition based? That's what I'm asking. And that's what we'll be teaching on. How can you take the pressure off the backs of your parents and your staff and make things better? It's what I've been working on for the last year, really launching in my own programs. It's actually been a couple of years in the making. It's actually been a few years in the making, but it's starting to really pick up for me now. So on this podcast too, you guys, I never want you to think that I have it all together. I don't. I'm figuring this out just like you are, right? We're in the same boat. So what I bring to you here and what I teach are ways that I have figured it out, right? I go through my struggles. I've almost been bankrupt a couple different times. I actually have filed bankruptcy in my life, and I've almost had to do it again. And basically, the things that I have learned to get myself out of these holes is what I teach you, right? So everything that I'm teaching you is something that I have done. It's tried and true. It's what I've done. I take my struggles and I make them a success, and I bring them to you and teach you, because my ultimate goal is to help relieve your pain. That's really what I'm going, my biggest goal. And with that being said, I do also have another announcement. And before I give you guys that announcement, and it has to do with getting through tough times as well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. I was meeting with a longtime podcast listener. She's been listening to me since the pandemic when I started doing this. During the pandemic, I saw the desperation. I saw so many center owners terrified they were going to lose their business. that I just jumped on and I started helping. I would go live every day on Facebook for like 3 months and just be the cheerleader. And I turned it into a podcast, right? I turned it into like, let's keep this going. That way, if we hit another COVID, we're okay. That's my goal. What I didn't realize is how many of you guys are vested in me. I am so vested in you and helping you and making sure that you not only survive, but thrive. I don't want people to have a good life. I want them to have a great life. Why settle for good when you could have great, right? And I know God has just given me so many amazing gifts. And through my struggles, He's taught me how to be an overcomer. So my goal is to help you too, right? That's one of my spiritual gifts is being an overcomer. And well, it's not really a spiritual gift, but one of the things that God has given me. So I can bring that to you. But what I didn't know is how vested you are in me. And so it was really touching talking to this person that has basically been with me through a lot, And so I just have some good news too. And I decided, you know what? I need to start sharing the good and not just how I overcame my struggles. So my announcement today is that I am getting married and I'm super excited and happy. So for those of you who know that my story, I mean, for this wonderful woman who was on the phone with me, she's been listening for years. So she was with me when my husband got really sick, when I became his full-time nurse, nursing him through his terminal illness. And then after he died, she's been listening to the podcast. She's been with me every step of the way. And it just made me realize that I need to share the victories too. I didn't realize so many of you are so vested. And so I sent an email out last week just announcing the good news. And I cannot tell you how heartwarming it was for me to have my inbox just blown up with congratulation emails, my messengers on LinkedIn, all of it would just blew up on Facebook, LinkedIn. It just like, I just got so many congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Oh my gosh, I've been with you on my journey. And it just really touched my heart. It really did. So I want to just thank you for giving me your time and for being invested in me and for being my cheerleader, because I always see myself as your cheerleader. But last week, God really showed me how you're my cheerleader too. And how you being in my corner and just cheering me on through the hardest thing in my life has really helped me keep going. And so now I want to share with you a happy moment. And it's also comes back to what we do here, right? It comes back to, hey guys, let's get this going. We can pick up. I have been through a very horrific experience in my life. I had to watch my first husband die a very hard and painful death, right? It took a long time. He was terminally ill for a long time. It was awful. Like watching a person you love going from thriving, strong, and just taking on the world, right? I used to like call him Superman, to just slowly deteriorating and losing that and then being gone. And I made it through that, right? And there were times where I didn't know how. And I'm still here. And now look at, right? It's like life does this to us. We might hit our lowest lows. And when we're there, it feels like there's no coming out of it. But you just have to hold on. You have to hold on and look to the future. So how do we get through these tough times? You stay future focused. Now, I do tend to stay a little bit too future focused, and that can get me into trouble a little bit because since I live so far in the future, I forget where I really am. So there's a balance, and this is something I'm really, really still learning. 2024 really showed me this, and I'm really working on it in 2025. How do you stay focused on your future, right? You got to stay future focused in order to survive. But how do you also keep a hold of the present, right? Because I have lived so far in the future throughout my life that I neglect the present, right? life passes me by to a certain extent, or I'm not looking at what I should be looking at today because I'm so focused on what's happening tomorrow. And so that can be a big problem as well. However, it is how I've gotten through everything I've gotten through, right? When my husband died, and there was a few different times. One of the biggest things that got me through that first year was I wrote a letter to myself, and I asked myself, in 1 year, what do you want your boys to say? I looked at my children, and I knew I was okay financially. I could have sold all my companies, everything, and I would have been just fine if I just kind of became a hermit, to be honest. And I could do that. Let me tell you, I've been agoraphobic in my past. I could lock myself in my house and I'd be perfectly happy for the rest of my life. But I looked at my kids and I had to ask myself, what do I want them to say about their mother a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And so I wrote it out. I literally wrote it out. This is what I want my children to say about me. This is the woman I want my children to see. And so I wrote a letter to my future self, and I imagined myself 1 year from now. And I wrote, oh my gosh, this is making me emotional. I haven't talked about this in a while, and I haven't thought about it in a while. So I'm actually getting a little emotional. Sorry. But I just wrote a letter thanking myself for being the person I need to be. And in that moment, I wasn't that person, but I asked myself, what does she need right now? What kind of traits does she need to have? How would she behave? What would she do? So once I figured that out, I actually wrote, thank you so much for showing up every day. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for fighting through this. Thank you for getting help, right? I got therapy at that moment in my life, like a lot of therapy. And thank you. And I basically just spelled it out. So when things got really hard, I would just pull that letter out and I would read it. Now, I was supposed to just seal it, put it away, and read it a year from then. But about 2 months later, I opened it and I would read it and I would read it and I would read it. And that got me through. So it's really important to take the time. When you're facing the hardest things in your life, sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what outcome do I want? A year from now, 2 years. And I always break this down. I do 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and then 20 years. What do I want my life to look at like? Because sometimes we make decisions that aren't the best, right? Because we are so focused on today and our immediate circumstances that we end up making decisions that affect the rest of our lives. And then we live with regret. That's one thing that I have to say I don't have a whole lot of in my life because I'm too future focused, but I'm always thinking about, okay, what do I want the outcomes to be, right? So that I don't have to regret my decisions today. Now, I there's a lot of things I do regret, like, just some of the investments I've made and stuff like that. But when it comes to my career and my major life choices, I don't have a whole lot of regrets, but it's because I will sit down and ask myself. And then once I know what I want, I fight for it and I don't give up. And I do that by understanding, who do I need to be in this, right? How do I need to show up? And I reverse the process and I just kind of rewind and like, okay, let's start here to get there. And that's something I do with all of you. If you're a member of my program, I've got trainings on it. I take you through the exact process I do, what I created for myself to get through. People who are close to me know I've had a really hard life. There's a lot that I've gone through in my life. And this is how, from my childhood, this is what it was like. My dad was an abusive alcoholic. I tell this story a lot about how, if you've ever seen me talking in person, you might have seen a picture of me as a child, because I show people I was a very rich child, right? My parents were affluent. My dad was making six figures in the 80s, and he was like dining with senators, and he was very influential. But what people didn't know is that behind closed doors, my dad was a very abusive alcoholic. We were just very well trained as children to just not talk about it. and to pretend. We were very well trained to pretend like we had the happy, perfect life. So as a child, I taught myself, and I would say, like, I would be in my bedroom and I'd just be crying and I'd be alone and I'd be so scared, and I would pray and like, God, why does the child have to live this way? And I knew that like nobody knew, right? The hypocrisy that I was literally taught as a child was really difficult. And I would just tell myself in 2 weeks, this won't matter anymore. And I would always project myself mentally 2 weeks from now. And then as I started getting older, 2 weeks wasn't enough, right? Then it became 2 years. 2 years from now, this won't be so bad. And then 2 years, well, 2 months, 2 years. And now I'm at the point where I look at 5, 10, 20, because time goes by so fast. Think about like when I went through my weight loss journey, that was another thing too. It seemed so daunting, right? I had to lose 150 pounds and it seemed so daunting. And I looked at it and thought, oh my gosh, this might take me 5 or 6 years to do. But then I asked myself, well, where else am I going to be in 5 or 6 years? Where else am I going to be? So it's okay. You might be in a very deep hole right now. I've been there. I've done that. I've had the IRS on my front door with a bill of over $100,000. You can dig your way out of this. I know sometimes it feels like this mountain you've got to climb is so big that there is no way. Just take the first step. Figure out what you really want. And once you do, make a plan and stick with it. And we're here to help. If you are really struggling with your childcare center, whether it's the hiring thing that is plugging all of us, hiring is hard for me too right now. I've actually started recruiting a lot of my I'm much more intentional, just like I teach. I'm practicing what I teach, go figure, right? And if it's financial, we're here to help. Make sure you sign up for our free webinar that's coming, and and I should probably get the link for that for you guys. I will have the link put in the chats. If not, you can email us at admin@childcarebusinessprofessionals.com. If you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, there's your email address. And for those of you on Facebook, it's admin@childcarebusinessprofessionals.com. And we would be happy to get you enrolled in this free webinar. It is really geared to help you think outside the box. A lot of the people were last month, we got so many messages that were just saying like, wow, this is like nothing I've seen in this industry. And it's not. And that's my goal. I want to bring you guys, I don't want to waste your time. Let's not waste time with all of the useless trainings, right? That you could probably train yourself at this point because we've taken them so many times. Let's do something better. And by the way, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kangaroo Time, which does make our lives so much easier. It really is just a game changer for managing your childcare center, payroll, accounts, communication with families. It is awesome. So check them out. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I hope to see many of you in our free workshop that will be happening. Bye, everybody.